So, we have reached a turning point in our story. A horrendous act of evil has been announced. Haman, the Agagite, a Persian official, a man filled with bitterness, rage, and revenge, has authorized an act of genocide against the Jews. It would seem that the Israelites, a nation in exile, a people of diaspora, are helpless and can do nothing but put on sackcloth and ashes and protest peacefully. But Mordecai, a slave and servant from the citadel, knows that more can be done, that someone can stop this act of evil, and that someone is the queen, his adopted daughter. Even though this is a story in which the name of God is absent, the promise of divine deliverance is now in Esther's hands. It is her decision to do what is right, to do what she can, to risk everything, even her own life, for such a time as this. And so what does Esther do? She takes action. She is decisive, but not in the way we might expect. Chapter 4, verses 15 to 16. Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. Go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. Instead of acting recklessly, Esther responds faithfully. Instead of being reactionary, Esther responds patiently and discerningly. Even though she knows the decision for deliverance is in her hands, Esther also knows she is not alone. And so she asks others to join her in discernment and to make a sacrifice in her stead, to fast and to pray, to help her and support her in faith for what must be done. Not unlike the practice of sackcloth and ashes, fasting is a religious ritual and spiritual discipline that can be done alone, but is often portrayed in Scripture as a corporate or communal act of devotion, for no child of God is ever alone. Whether it be for the high holy days, such as the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, or in a season of great distress when divine deliverance is needed, such as in Joel chapter 2 or Ezra chapter 8. When the people of God act as one, when they're united and willing to sacrifice the basic necessities for the sake of discernment and God's direction, He is faithful. Our uncertainty will be replaced with clarity. Our void will be filled with vision. Our desperation will produce a plan. And apparently, that's exactly what happened to Esther. After 3 days of prayer and fasting, Esther now prepares herself for what must have been the most terrifying moment in her life. With the support and plea of her people, Hadassah is willing to risk her life and speak with the king. Void of nutrition and yet filled with faith, Esther now steps towards the throne room. One Christian author perfectly encapsulates the suspense and uncertainty of the scene by writing this. With every step toward the throne room, she gained a small measure of strength. Esther paused at the entrance to the king's hall. In a few short footsteps, she'd be visible, and there would be no turning back. A long hall of pillars stretched between Xerxes' throne and the entrance where Esther stood. Esther could see him now. She could also see the soldier standing guard over him, holding a large sword for the rapid disposal of any unwelcome guests. Her heart pounded so furiously that her ears rang. The king looked up from a document and then drew down his brow as if focus would help him fathom the sight. Only her beauty exceeded her audacity, and feeling the weight of expectations, King Xerxes somehow found himself more intrigued than insulted. This is it. Esther has done what she said she would do. Even though it was against the law, even though she had been unsummoned for over 30 days, this new queen dared to approach and speak with the king. Verses 2 to 5. When the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her and held out to her the gold scepter that was in his hand. So Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. Then the king asked, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be given you. If it pleases the king, replied Esther, let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him. Wait, what? A banquet I have prepared for him? Well, okay then. Even though we were just on the edge of our seats, caught in suspense, uncertain about Esther's fate, apparently, over the course of those 3 days of prayer and fasting, Esther had formulated a plan. Her uncertainty had been replaced with clarity. Her void had been filled with vision. Her desperation had produced a plan. In response to an unprecedented act of evil, the children of God had been bound together through faith and fasting, and as a result, something was about to be done. Our title character, our protagonist, is now taking the reins. She's stealing back the spotlight so that divine deliverance can come, so that salvation can be proclaimed for her people. Next time on Esther in Isolation. So apparently Esther is keeping her cards pretty close to her chest. She's slowly moving her chess pieces into place. Esther discerningly and deliberately delivered the only things these two selfish and sinful men were interested in: unearned honor and excessive drinking.